raised in Peoria, Illinois, and decided to make the big move out here to Denver, Colorado. So just to kind of dive right into some of the different things that I'm going to be talking about is, first and foremost, is the OTAs. I know that this is a huge topic that we're continuing to have with a lot of our clients, and figuring out exactly how we need to navigate these larger OTA websites so that not only are they taken away from direct booking opportunities from you when you're in your need period, but also making sure that you're maximizing some of these opportunities so that they can help you when needed. So for those of you that don't know, an OTA stands for an online travel agent. So think about websites like Expedia or Booking.com. These are platforms that allow customers to search for hotels, compare prices, and then make a booking through the website directly. And what I mean by directly, I apologize for using that word, but essentially visitors can go on to Expedia, they can find a property, they can find an accommodation, they can look at reviews, and they can complete that reservation without having to leave that website at all. Now, the way that this works with the properties that are advertising on these websites is you have to sign up with an agreement, with a contract with these, and basically they'll work out a commission plan so that anytime they're referring any sort of reservation your way, you're going to have to pay anywhere from 20 to 25% per reservation so that you can get that exposure and reservation from those companies. So there are a lot of those websites out there, so you may believe that, you know, there are many different players, but in fact there's actually only two players, that's Expedia and the Priceline Group. So you'll see some of those highlighted in the upper left-hand corner, and some of those other websites that you may be familiar with and what buckets they fall under. One of the things that, you know, we definitely have to kind of evaluate here, especially from an online marketing standpoint, where we want to try to drive as many direct bookings as possible to our client's website, is the fact that there are benefits to advertising on the OTAs. So some of those benefits that we can't overlook, you know, include the fact that they do have a growing customer base, so they can reach a large amount of people. They have a high amount of authority, so they're extremely visible in places like the search engines where many travelers are going to begin their search. They can help you increase your revenue and address any occupancy issues that you're needing based on that level of exposure that they have and the amount of people out there that are currently using them. You can also use them to address any midweek or slow booking periods. And also, in some cases, you may be able to increase the average length of stay. So if you want to try to get longer stays on some of these websites, you absolutely can utilize your OTA presence to help you with addressing some of those needs. So bottom line here is that we never want to invest you know, all of our eggs in this one basket. That's never a good idea. We never solely want to rely on the OTAs. However, not taking advantage of the OTAs can hurt in your ability to increase new clientele. So we want to make sure that we have a healthy balance between driving as many reservations as we possibly can to your website in your low season, so you're not having to pay out of pocket as much for those when you're strapped for cash. But we also want to make some availability out there for some of those websites so that they can help you in filling some of those need periods, especially as you're approaching what you deem as a historically slower period in bookings. So some of the recommendations that we have here is that you definitely want to make sure that if you are advertising with some of those OTA websites that you are negotiating those commissions. Typically, independently owned hotels or properties are going to end up paying a higher commission just because you don't have the sort of buying power as, say, a large hotel chain. So make sure that you're checking out what those contracts include and what they're asking you to do. Typically, we like to see a commission cost be around 20%. Anything higher, you know, definitely think about negotiating to see if you can get any lower. Also, you know, when it comes to your low season, look at historically when you need the most help. So that way you're not just putting anything and everything on those websites that you're advertising and also making available for booking and, you know, putting yourself in a position where you're having to pay those large commission fees. So make sure that the availability that you are giving to those more expensive channels do reflect when you typically need the most help. So not only that, but maybe there are particular rooms or types of accommodations that you need more help with than others. If it makes sense, you know, definitely play around with some minimum night stays. So again, maybe it would be worthwhile, instead of just making a one-night availability an option for booking, maybe you want to play around with 2, so that way if you are having to pay 20% on top of that reservation cost, you still are getting more value out of that by having that guest stay longer with you. And I kind of mentioned this already, but maybe you want to think about only making certain types of accommodations available. So I put here promoting higher priced rooms because that may assist with your bottom line, again, when you're needing more cash flow. So that kind of wraps up, you know, my comments on OTAs going into your low season. It's definitely going to be something that you're going to want to evaluate, but I think, you know, the first step is going to be looking at historical data and then figuring out exactly what you want to make available and where you want to make it available based on the cost to acquire those reservations. Moving on, you know, search engine optimization is obviously a huge part of your online presence. That's where you want to get majority of your exposure on. That's where most of your traffic and online reservations should be coming from already when we're talking about your direct website. So this is something that should be done consistently throughout the year. However, I figured it would be valuable to talk about in your low season strategy because it is important to continue investing and making a priority. So ideally, when people are searching and they're going to Google, you want to be shown at least twice organically. The first place is going to be the local 3-pack, which you can see here is on the left-hand side. That is going to be where 93% of all location-based searches take place. And then you also want to display in a second position in that organic section, which is going to be more of that natural listing section, which is located on the right-hand side. So in an ideal scenario, a guest is they're going to search for lodging in your area, and you're going to show up twice for real estate purposes, and that will not only help you acquire that reservation, but again, just help in acquiring more of those clicks to your website in that low season. One thing to make note of with that local 3-pack, because this has been a pretty big discussion around here and also in a lot of the online marketing you know, blogs, is that the Googles and the OTAs have definitely been working together more closely. So here on the left-hand side, you'll notice that the first recommendation that Google gave me for these dates that I put in was for a property that was advertising on an OTA. So 2 things here that you need to make note of is that if you're advertising on an OTA website, you're going to get some boosts in that local 3-pack. So Google's going to give you ranking over another competitor if you are offering not only availability for those generated dates that Google is pulling up when you're doing those location-based searches, but you know, you need to make sure that you're having the option for people to take advantage of that rate and to book right then and there. So unfortunately, in this scenario, you know, this client that we've highlighted here did not have any availability on those OTA websites, or maybe the availability that was being advertised on that OTA website had already been booked. Google is going to automatically bump you down into that second position, regardless of the amount of reviews that you have, or, you know, the amount of optimization that you completed on your listing. They're going to give that positioning in that first position to those properties that are not only offering availability on those OTAs, but advertising on some of those websites that they partnered up with. So something that's definitely changed over the past few months that can hurt you from an organic standpoint, specifically from showing up in that local 3-pack. So there are advantages of, partnering up with some of those OTAs and showing availability. So that's definitely changed, but nonetheless, it's still important for you to go out, make sure that you have a Google My Business listing, make sure that you are consistently referring your views to that listing, because Google, at the end of the day, wants to try to offer as much quality information as possible to their searchers and the most relevant information. So the more engagement that you're receiving on those listings and the more consistent you're getting about updating your optimization on your website and adding quality content for those potential travelers, Google's going to reward you with showing your property as a listing for those searches. The next thing that I wanted to talk about is Google Adwords, because this is something that definitely needs to be thought about. Is, do we need to increase the amount of spend that we're putting towards by participating in platforms like Google Adwords and Bing Ads? For those of you that do not know, we can get additional exposure in Google, and you can see this highlighted in the right-hand side, where if people are doing various searches like Denver hotels in Denver, you can pay to be listed at the top or even in the bottom in some cases of the search results page based on the terms that you're wanting to show up for. And so in this particular scenario, in order to get exposure in Google.com, you're going to advertise with Google AdWords, and then from there you're able to create ads, and those ads can say whatever you want them to say with the exception of a few guidelines that Google puts in place. But earlier this year, a major change took place where Google removed the right-hand side ads for those PPC ads. And so that really changed the game, because in addition to removing the right-hand side ads, they actually added a 4th position. And then what happened as a result of them adding that 4th position, as well as recently announcing that they're going to be expanding the real estate that those ads are taking up, now searchers are having to scroll down the page more in order to find you organically. So this is a bad thing in the sense for those properties that aren't advertising with Google AdWords right now, because now searchers are having to scroll down the page more and also be aware of the fact that this is an ad versus an organic. But there's an advantage there for those properties that are advertising on Google AdWords, because now you have more visibility, you have more opportunity to sell your property and utilize those additional characters that Google AdWords has launched. So good and bad news there. So in an ideal scenario, especially as we're approaching the slow season, we would strongly recommend you to advertise and be placed in both channels, paid and organically, for you to really maximize the amount of traffic and clicks that you're able to acquire when those travelers are going to places like Google.com. Another thing that I wanted to point out here is on the left-hand side, you'll see a screenshot of mobile. So naturally, you're going to be working with a smaller device. Therefore, there's going to be less room and less space for Google to show all the content that they would show on a screen for a desktop user. So again, an advantage to those properties that are taking advantage of Google AdWords. You're going to see nothing but ads when you first do a search in Google. And so a lot of times people are not patient. They want to get the information that they're looking for immediately. They have attention spans in less than a goldfish. I'm sure you've all heard of things like this. So making sure that you're there immediately in all those different places to capture those micro moments is absolutely critical, especially when you're wanting to generate the most results possible when your business needs it. So if you haven't already, start talking to your agency, start talking, with the people at the property to figure out what needs to be done so that you can pay to play in this arena, because there's obviously more exposure being given to those businesses that are choosing to do so. Another thing that I would recommend looking at, this is again another paid opportunity, but nonetheless it is something that is continuing to grow, and it's also a great way for you to minimize costs in acquiring those bookings, i.e. OTAs. So what I want to kind of get across here is that this is an example of a meta search platform, and this is referred to as Trip Connect. I did a webinar about this a few months ago, but essentially these platforms allow you to compare prices offered across the different OTAs and the properties' websites themselves. So how this differs with an OTA website is that the meta search firms, instead of taking a commission, they're essentially charging you a cost per click, which is very similar to Google Adwords, where you're paying for that action, you're paying for that click. You're not paying just for your property to show up. You're only being charged, anywhere from 50 cents upwards to $2.50, depending on how competitive your area is, for you to advertise not only your direct rate, which is connected to your booking engine, but then those visitors are taken to your booking engine where they can complete that process immediately. So it's helping you with a low season strategy in the sense that you're targeting availability that you need to fill, and furthermore, you're offering that rate information right then and there on a website like TripAdvisor, where people are often going to really get to that purchasing decision. So it's extremely important so that when they are ready, because they've read all the fabulous reviews that your past guests have provided, they may be ready to take action right then and there. So instead of having the opportunity for them to go to booking.com or Orbitz, where it's going to cost you upwards to 25% per booking, they can see that they can book directly with you, get directed to your booking engine, and not only that, but hopefully they're going to see a more attractive rate from your booking engine than they would on all those other expensive channels, so that you win the click and you're only having to pay, like I said, anywhere from 50 cents all the way upwards to $2.50, depending on the competition in your area. So that is a huge opportunity there. TripAdvisor, actually, keep in mind here in this lower right-hand corner, TripAdvisor recently signed a deal with booking.com where they're now allowing customers to book rooms directly on TripAdvisor's website. So instead of them being taken to booking.com, those guests can actually complete that reservation right then and there without having to leave the TripAdvisor website. So you can see the OTAs are doing anything and everything that they can to be in all those different places so that they can get those reservations. So the competition is continuing to grow. It's getting harder and harder for you to generate those direct bookings, especially during your low season where you're needing that assistance with generating reservations at a low cost. So be competitive and take advantage of this opportunity to have an option to acquire those reservations to your property's website directly by participating in a meta search platform like Trip Connect. The next thing that I want to talk about here is content. So regardless of when people choose to travel, they are dreaming of their next holiday all year round. I know just from my personal experience, I just got back from Nashville, and now I'm already talking about the next trip that I want to take. And so it's just this constant thought process that's going on in those guests' minds. So where are they gonna plan their trip to next? What's the next area that they want to visit? Why would they want to go to your particular location? So leading up to the slow season, leading up to the time that you need the most bookings, think about developing a blog strategy. Ideally, you want to do this year-round, but if you haven't and you don't have that in place and you have somebody helping you, think about figuring that out as soon as possible so that you can be on top of this when the time comes. And make sure that these blog posts are centered around what people can do in your area during the off-peak time of the year. Every season in your destination will offer something unique and interesting to experience, so start brainstorming ideas about the benefits of traveling in your particular off-season, and then get out and about, take photos, take videos, and then start promoting that in different places. I know a great place to kind of start is maybe huddling around as a property and talking to your guests and really getting a feel of what do they love most about some of those times of year, and what are some of the events, speaking with your Chamber of Commerce, that what are they trying to do to drive people to visit your area. Another thing that I would suggest doing is find your brand ambassadors. These are people who want to share their experiences. Then take that information and promote it. Promote it in, on your social media networks, promote it on your blog. Here's an example on the right-hand side where we have we took an opportunity for one of our clients, and we spoke with one of their past guests that have visited the property for several years, and all we did is ask a few questions, and they did the promotion for us. So this just further assists you in making your property attractive and giving you a heads up on your competition to maybe make you different and stand out from the rest of the options that they have. Another thing that I want to talk about is email marketing. So this is something that we're definitely taking advantage of, for a lot of our clients, where we're figuring out what's their bookings looking like over the next few months. What are some periods? What do we need to promote? What's the package going to be? But I mean, there's a lot of different ways that you can use email to try to generate bookings for that low season, whether that's asking them to take action on a particular promotion after they've stayed with you in that post-stay email. An example of something that you can do is say, hey, we'd like for you to come back and visit us, book within the next few days, receive this discount, but you have to stay with us for these periods of time that you know that you need assistance with. Think about promoting deals to existing customers. So using all of those email addresses in your reservation software and excluding people that have already made reservations and figuring out ways that you can incentivize them to make a reservation with you. There's a lot of different opportunities here from an email standpoint that you can use. It doesn't always have to come down to a discount or an incentive. It can just be a matter of highlighting a particular event taking place that draws a lot of popularity, or maybe people may be unfamiliar with, but you think it would be something of interest based on having past conversations with your guests. Think about just at least using that email marketing channel as an opportunity to remind them to come back. We'll talk about gift certificates here in a bit, but hopefully you've already started having conversations about putting together an email campaign before Thanksgiving hits, so that you can encourage people to give a gift certificate to their loved ones so that they can stay with you. Another thing that I spoke about in a past webinar was a loyalty program, and this is something that all the major hotel chains are doing, and I think that's important for us to make note of, because they're in the same boat. Yes, they may not be having the same sort of challenges, but from a direct booking standpoint, they absolutely are. They're rallying all of their marketing teams and their properties to do everything that they possibly can to prevent people from going to those more expensive channels. So a lot of them have made a big push to increase the size of their loyalty programs by encouraging people to book direct. So as a result, just this past year, or I should say in 2015, they saw an increase of about 13.1% members grow compared to the previous year as a result of these marketing efforts. And so one of the things that I thought was interesting was in order to really encourage people to take these loyalty programs seriously is reward them based off of the amount of money that they're spending with you, not necessarily the amount of nights that they're staying with you. That not only will work out better for you, but then they know the more that they stay, the more that they spend, the more they're gonna get out of that program. And then from there, simply take advantage of promotion opportunities like the email marketing campaigns and social media to make people aware of the additional benefits that they have here. So here's an example of Hilton where they're offering upwards to 30% off for stays. Now, keep in mind that's not what I'm recommending for everybody to go out and do. You need to look at your own numbers and figure out what is going to be feasible for you to offer. But what they are doing is giving some sort of benefit to those guests that have already said that they're loyal, and to train them to go directly to them instead of those OTA sites, so that they can reduce on some of those costs. So I said that we would chat about it, so the time has come where we're going to talk about gift certificates. So in the guide, I thought one of the interesting stats that we were able to find was that 30% of gift certificates are never redeemed. So that means that people are spending money with you, and 30% of those spenders are not actually utilizing those gift certificates. You still get the money, good news for you, but 30% of them are actually not even redeeming. So a very easy opportunity for you to generate more revenue and for you not to have to have that wear and tear done on your property, because 30% of them aren't even going to come and stay with you. So another interesting fact, 72% of gift certificate receivers will spend on average 20% more than the value they received. I don't know about you, but when somebody gives me a gift certificate, I tend to still spend more money, because I know that that money that I have associated with that gift certificate isn't coming out of my pocket. So the chances of them spending more is about 20% with those gift certificates. So if you don't have a gift certificate engine on your website today, contact your booking engine and figure out if that's something that they offer. I know Registream we do, and I know for all of our cloud PMS users, that's something that's included already in that cost. So you can get something like that added to your website to begin generating revenue today without having to pay anything additional for that. So not only making it available online, but then also making sure that people have the opportunity to purchase that over the phone or in person. All these different ways for them to take action is just going to give them more opportunity to convert. So take advantage of the gift certificate engines. We're approaching the holiday season. Low season opportunity here is for you to make sure that you have that in place. Furthermore, as I mentioned, a few slides ago, think about how you're going to promote it. So don't just slap it up on the website and call it good. You need to let people know that this is a service you're offering. So think about doing an email campaign. Like I said, I would recommend putting something together before the Thanksgiving holiday. Make sure that you're promoting on social media throughout that time period where people are thinking about, what am I going to give my loved one, or what am I going to buy this person? So gift certificates is a huge opportunity here that I would strongly recommend taking advantage of. And in some cases, depending on what state you're located in, you may be able to make it even more attractive by showing the fact that they can purchase this and they can redeem it at any given time. So here's another example of an email marketing campaign. I know earlier I was kind of focused mainly on that post-stay and how to incentivize them to make that booking with you, to fill those need periods right after they've had a wonderful stay with you. This is another example of a client where they're kind of combining both a loyalty program and the email marketing channel to really drive those reservations through their booking engine. So what this client has done in the past is they've offered a discount to those loyal guests that have stayed with them for over 2 to 3 years, all right? And what they've done in the past is that they've allowed anybody, as long as they've been a guest of 2 to 3 years and they fit that loyalty program criteria, is they would reward them with that discount even if they went to an OTA website. So what they did here is they're starting to train their guests of, you can still take advantage of these discounts, but they need to go through us. You're no longer going to be able to get the same discount if you book on booking.com or if you go to Expedia. It needs to be through our website. And so then they sent out this email campaign a few months prior, gave the information about when they needed to book through, put a promo code in the booking engine so it wasn't being offered to anybody and everybody. It was an exclusive offer for that audience. And then they sent out an email campaign encouraging them to take action right there. So this is just, more of an example of how they're trying to front load their email or their booking for that low season, as well as encouraging them to go directly as opposed to those more expensive distribution channels. So remarketing is another low season strategy that I would recommend looking at. I've shared this stat before, but 96% of website visitors leave a website without converting. And this is something that we're continuing to see grow. The more information that's available to travelers, they're utilizing it. So it's not more or less a game these days of going to one website and converting. They're going out there doing their research, they're reading the reviews, they're doing some price comparison. You need to make sure that you're there in all those different ways to grab their attention and bring them back and encourage that reservation to take place. So this is an example of a remarketing ad. For those of you that don't know, remarketing is when you're able to tag visitors that have landed on your website and have not completed a desired action, and then those ads are able to kind of follow those visitors around on the internet. It depends on what remarketing partner you are using, because they all give you access to a different type of website or a different set of websites. Google Adwords offers you to do a remarketing campaign, so if that's the case, you're able to show on websites like TripAdvisor and I think HomeAway and VRBO and some of those other websites are there where they're partnered up with Google to be able to show those advertisements. So in this scenario, what we did was we provided them with a promotion for them to click through back to the website to complete that reservation. And that deal was only marketed to those guests that landed on the website and did not make that booking right then and there. So remarketing is a great opportunity for you to capture those visitors' attention, make yourself as easily available for those reservations to come through, and also, really focusing on those need periods. What exactly do you need the help? Where's the availability? Where do you need the most help? And then developing a promotion or a package focused around that to really encourage those bookings to come through. So I know I sound like a broken record because I talk about this all the time, but we still have lots of websites out there that are not responsive. So just to kind of paint a picture, in Q1 of 2016, 40% of travel visits in the U.S. were done on mobile, and 60% of travel destination information searches came from mobile. So travelers these days are getting more and more comfortable booking, researching, getting inspiration from, considering all those different steps in that marketing process and decision-making process are growing on mobile devices. So offering a great user experience on whatever device they're searching on or booking on is absolutely critical. So if you do not have a responsive website and you do not have a mobile-friendly booking engine, make sure that you have that in place, especially when you need the bookings the most. So that's all I'm going to say really about that. For those of you that don't know, though, responsive website is going to just resize your existing website to fit all those different types of devices, and it's going to be able to offer all the information as you would to your desktop users to those smartphone users. So it's a much easier experience for them to navigate page to page as well as to book. So it's not just website, it's a website and your booking engine. So take a look at that today and see how easy is it for you to make a reservation on your own website. So another easy opportunity here, but I'm shocked to see some of the inconsistencies that take place. A few things here. Make sure that your website's room names, descriptions, images match what you have in the booking engine. The last thing you want to do is advertise a particular room on your website and then have something completely different in the booking engine. Visitors are going to be confused about what it is that they were looking for, or where is the room that they fell in love with that they want to make a reservation for. Another thing that I want to make note of here is that you want to make sure that there's some consistencies between the look and feel of your website and your booking engine, so that you're making sure that people aren't losing trust when they are going through that process. And then furthermore, think about and look at some of the different features that your booking engine has to maybe help them through that process of finding exactly what it is that they're looking for. So maybe you have an amenities filter where you can tag all your pet-friendly rooms or your ocean view rooms or any of those major opportunities or features that people absolutely love about your property and make it easy for them to find that particular type of room or at least that set of rooms. Last thing that I want to talk about here on this slide is that a lot of people will start this reservation process and they will abandon it at some point, and maybe as a result of you having inconsistent room names, descriptions. That obviously from today's webinar, hopefully you'll go back and take a look and make sure all that stuff is the same on both of those platforms. But in any case, you may just have people getting distracted as they're making that reservation process, and they may just want to leave. And so in that case, something that we've been playing around with here internally at ResStream is working with a recovery abandoned booking tool, where if they go to that thank you page, or I shouldn't say thank you page, but they go to that form page, which is the step before they get to that thank you page, and they're filling out their information, they provide their email address, and then they leave without completing that purchase. What we're able to do from using a tool, the one that we've been playing around with is called CartStack, which provides a free 30-day trial. It allows you to send email campaigns, up to 3 email campaigns, sending to those guests that have left that process and encouraging them to come back and complete it. Sometimes you can offer an incentive. You don't always have to, but that is a great tool to maybe think about using in your own booking engine, if your booking engine supports it, for you to be able to target those guests that have already shown that they're interested in purchasing from you, but for whatever reason just never clicked on that final step. So depending on your business type, you may like to touch base maybe with your regional marketing manager or discuss ways where you can enter into the meetings and events market. So positive thing about meetings and events is that they happen year-round. It's not restricted by season. So, even if you aren't a large property, if you're a small operator, there are always pre- and post-conference opportunities to get involved. And often smaller conference groups are looking for a more tailored, unique accommodation experience. So this may open the door for your business to benefit from some of these opportunities where you can offer packages or maybe create a new space in your property that's not being used, where you can target this new segment to generate additional bookings, especially during these low seasons. I always like to talk about the book direct incentive, but this is obviously something that you can do year-round, but low season, you may want to give an added benefit to those guests to just get them over that line of committing and staying with you. And that can just be a matter of just some free incentives, whether that's free Wi-Fi, a room upgrade, dining credits, breakfast, parking, whatever it may be. But think about ways that maybe you can push those guests over the line and committing them to staying with you. Maybe it's a matter of you empowering your guest-facing employees to match and lower rate for the property found elsewhere. Or sending out an email campaign letting them know that they're able to take advantage of some of these incentives during a certain time period. But I think it is important to kind of think of ways where you can entice those guests to stay with you without having to offer a major discount. It can just be some of these smaller, less costly amenities that you can offer to specifically those visitors that are booking directly with you, but if you really need the assistance, offer it across all channels. Another thing that we talk about in the guide is that you kind of partnering up with some of the local vendors in your area, whether that's a chamber of commerce or restaurants or breweries, wineries, colleges, whatever it may be. Partner up with them, figure out opportunities where you can kind of create packages around that. That way, not only are you creating an experience where it takes the planning out of that guest travel planning, but then on top of that, you're able to hopefully add to that bottom line where you're not having to give a discount. You're just able to associate a room package with that particular activity or event taking place in your area. And then the last thing that I kind of wanted to end with for today's webinar was the weekday and weekend bookings and advanced bookings. So, you know, if you do need assistance in really trying to drive some revenue and bookings, you know, offering a discount, offering, you know, some sort of promotion where it's going to just further entice them to want to stay with you, maybe in periods that they haven't necessarily thought of before, you may want to test out some of these different packages that I put on here. So whether it's offering a late checkout, some dining credit, or encouraging people to make their advanced reservations by offering them a discount on the third, fourth, or ninth stay is something worthwhile to think about. Before you offer this, obviously look at your historical data, figure out are your bookings for a particular low season period trending behind or ahead, you know, year over year. And then from there, really put together a package and a discount that's going to benefit you and the bottom line. So as promised, here is the URL that you will need to go to in order to download the comprehensive guide offering tips and tricks for your off-season revenue program strategy. So go to www.redstream.com/low-season. From there, you'll be able to download the PDF, and like I said, lots of great information in there. So we would highly encourage you to go and download it and read it and give us feedback. For those of you that have any questions or would like to connect with us online to make sure that you're up to date with everything that's going on with the travel industry and online marketing world and design world and reservation software world, please get connected with us on social media as well as our blog. Our blog features new posts a couple times a month, so we would really appreciate you subscribing and receiving those valued posts. So now I'm going to go and see if I have any questions. So let's see here. What is the average cost per click for hotels in cities, medium-sized towns? So unfortunately, it's really hard to give an exact range in terms of cost. I would say for really highly competitive areas, I mean, the cost per click for Google Adwords as well as for Trip Connect, you know, can range anywhere from $2. Google Adwords, it can be all the way up to, you know, $5 to $7, depending on the keywords that you're wanting to show up for. For medium-sized towns, I would say you're looking at anywhere from, I mean, it can be a few cents all the way upwards to $2 a click. It really just depends on how much those keywords are searched and how many other competitors in your area are bidding on those same exact terms. That's really going to determine how much those are going to cost you. Let's see here. I apologize, I got a note about me breaking up. I'm really sorry. I hope that you all were able to hear me clearly. Let's see here. I think that's about it in terms of questions. So as a reminder, you can look forward to receiving the recording here by email. We'll also be posting the webinar slides as well as the recording within the next 48 business hours. And you have my direct contact information. So if you're thinking and you have some additional questions based on some of the information that I covered today, definitely feel free to reach out by phone or email. Thanks again so much for everyone joining today's webinar, and we will see you next month.